Right, let's see if I can pull this off. Video number 3. On my psychological Triune brain network, which includes Vinod Menon's triple network, which is the relationship between the default mode network, the central executive network, and the Salience Network, which I talked about in the first video of this series. The second video was on their relationship with the sensory and auditory networks, and how they're constantly interacting. And how we make these separations merely so that we can learn more about their functioning, but they're always talking to one another. You cannot separate these things. There are some areas that don't necessarily talk, like with the Salience Network. We'll see if I can get into that, but because right now we're going to talk about how these systems relate between the triple network and the sensory and motor networks, and their directionality of processing. And that's what the main part of this video is going to be about, is directionality of processing. So when I say directionality of processing, what I'm talking about is what they refer to as top-down or bottom-up processing of the brain. So top-down is the dorsal attention network, which for short is DAN, right? DAN is top-down. And then we have the ventral attention network, which is more bottom-up. So what this means is ventral attention network is more of more hindbrain information, things that are coming from internal stimuli. One of my favorite examples that I've come up with for this is like, I have to go to the bathroom. I may have brought this up at some point, I'm not sure. Having to go to the bathroom, your body tells itself with bottom-up processing. It's instinctual, like, right? And so when your body does this, it'll trigger your Salience Network, part of the triple network. And the Salience Network is the one that detects novel stimuli. And so the Salience Network is the one that will communicate and activate top-down processing, which is the process of activating the central executive network. So we can say, oh, I have to go pee, right? And you're still in this kind of like maybe DMN autopilot mode. But if you're in a foreign space, maybe like your Salience Network can get activated then from VAN. So VAN talks with the Salience Network. So VAN and DAN don't necessarily communicate, right? So VAN talks with the SN. The Salience Network will then activate the CEN, central executive, and be like, okay, where's the bathroom? I have to find the bathroom, right? And so now you're top-bottom having to think, using your higher cognitive processes to like locate the bathroom and get there. And maybe by the time you're in the bathroom, you're back to an autopilot, because this is second nature to us, going to the bathroom, right? And this is like a nice simplistic situation, I think, that really helps us get an idea of how these things function. And so they consider the Salience Network like the switch. It switches between VAN and DAN. So VAN and DAN don't necessarily communicate, right? But they have a relationship. And so you have your triple network, central executive, the DMN, which is your resting state, and your Salience Network. And they're always constantly interacting with our sensory and motor networks, auditory networks. Like, this is all happening all at once. It's super impressive what's happening in there. And yeah, so I don't know, I think I probably did that pretty concisely. Thanks for thinking with me. I'll probably make some more videos on just all sorts of other ideas that I might have, but this is what I would consider the psychological triune brain. Right? I use the triune brain because Paul MacLean came up with this term late 50s, I think, and it was a very kind of basic idea that he, we didn't have the information at the time to be able to understand it fully, but understanding that there's 3 kind of base parts of the brain is really helpful in observing other things. we have this habit of just making separations and forgetting so many things are yes and, right? They're not either or. We have such this either or habit in science and observation, and we need to be more open-minded to the fact that many things are coexisting, right? So this is the directionality of processing, and the second was, what was the second? The first was triple network, second was auditory, visual, sensory motor stuff, and then directionality processing. And so this whole process I refer to as, it's my cognitive functional map of cognition. Pardon my scrambling, but I'm thinking. And this is all, I'm putting these things together, pulling from different fields of study. So things haven't necessarily been talked about in this manner, but I'm excited about what these observations could potentially offer. Yada yada. Hope you enjoyed, and there'll be more nonsense coming from the cat thing.